Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brad, and today we're going to cover CRF and CLM. They're closed-end funds from Cornerstone, and should they belong in your portfolio? If that's something you're interested in, stick around. Okay, now let's look at these. I personally do not invest in these funds, but Steven from the Income Factory actually does. Oh, full disclosure. It's in his portfolio, so I'm going to review them because this might be for you and this might not be for you. I am going to say not financial advice, legal advice, or any other advice. It's just my personal opinion, and I'm going to look at this as something that I might be interested in the future, but I am not buying today. But they're interesting. Let's walk through these. If I look at CRF and I look at the price return, and CRF has been around since 1973, so this is not a new fund. But price return has them down 90%. That's something that Brad probably is not interested in. That clearly looks like some NAV erosion over time. Down and to the right. Okay, CLM. These guys been around since 1987. Again, not a new fund. Lots of history. They're only down 91%. Okay, so I'm getting a little confused of why people may or may not like these funds. But I'm going to give them a chance. Don't rule these out. If you like this kind of information, make sure you hit the like and subscribe and follow along. If I look at price return, since 2014, it's only down 60%, where SPY is only up 182%. But I like to look at total returns because not always does these charts tell you the true story behind a fund. And that is why you got to look at price return, total returns, and other factors that come into play with all these funds because they're not all the same. If I look at total return on Seeking Alpha, it's at 186 and SPY is at 235, and this again dates all the way back to 2014. I'm starting to sit there, smile to myself and say, maybe this is something I should really take a look at. Because as you may or may not know, Seeking Alpha only adds the distributions. It's not reinvested distributions. And one thing I should tell you about CLM and CRF is they drip at NAV. That's hard to calculate. There's actually I couldn't find a true calculator that actually drips at NAV, but I modified my Excel spreadsheet to get me pretty darn close. And I'm going to share those results at the end because I just took the discounts over the last 5 years and just subtracted that off the buy price. So it would actually drip at the lower price. To see what it actually did to the fund and what it really truly means to your returns. Not a hypothetical what does it might mean, but what does it truly mean to your returns. If I look at CRF and CLM, they are definitely a higher price than their actual NAV. So there's more demand for these funds and they're selling at a premium. Now, there are 2 free articles, links down below on Seeking Alpha, one being from Steven, talking about CLM and CRF and whether you should hold them or buy them. So check them out. I'm also going to leave links to my other channel that will have the audio recordings of both of them on the other channel. So just in case you really don't feel like reading the articles, you can listen to them. A closed-end fund is not like an ETF. So a closed-end fund is a limited amount of shares, where the ETF is open-ended. You buy more shares it just continues to track whatever it's doing. In these, the CLM and CRF, they're closed-end funds, so there's a limited amount of shares. Now, to get new shares available, they have to do the rights offering. And we're going to talk about the rights offering and what the last two rights offering you should have done. If I look over multiple years, they have multiple years of information available for this, and they basically track above the net asset value. Again, something you may or may not want to be participating in, but you got to know that you have to drip at NAV, and your broker has to drip at NAV to be able to take advantage of this. I do not know everybody's brokers. I am not your financial advisor. I know Fidelity will drip at NAV. Please do not ask me, does XYZ drip at NAV? I have no clue, and nor am I going to call on your behalf to find out for you. You can pick up the phone and dial at your leisure to find out what they do, and they may or may not even know what you're talking about. If I look at premiums and averages, I want to say CRF is sitting right around that 20% premium for the last 5 years. And that's what I did in my math. So when I went to buy the shares, I discounted the price of the shares 20% to show you exactly how that played out. If I look at CRF and the returns, price return has been 13% over the last 10 years, with their NAV being 12%. Okay, I'm starting to like this more and more. The last year CRF is up 52% on price, and their NAV is up 31% on price. I like that. That is something to like. And if you know me and my sarcasm, that's actually kind of saying something for a fund that I'm saying that I'm not going to buy right now, but it's interesting. If I look at CLM, their average 5-year premium discount is about 18%, 18.41. And I actually used the decimal points when I did my math. I just wanted to see how this really played out, and did it make sense or did it not make sense? When I look at CLM, they're a little bit behind on the 1 year on their price. Their NAV is about the same. The 10-year looks very close. So again, another fund that may or may not fit into your portfolio. Now, here is what you need to really do if you're going to be involved in these types of funds. They publish annual and semi-annual reports. Go out and look at the net. What you need to do is go out and get the semi-annual report and annual reports every time they're released. If the net increase in net assets resulting from operations is greater than total distributions to shareholders, it's a winner. If it is not, it's something that you may or may not want to be involved in. Those are the two key points that I want to take away. If I go back and look at 2001 and 2020, you can actually see they paid out more than they took in December 31st, 2020. That is something that you do not want to be in. But in 2021, they made more than they paid out. That is something that you do want to be in. Again, in 2022, they paid out. They had a loss. And then the distributions were even greater, so it's an even greater loss. This is not something that you want to be in during a downturn. you can go back and find multiple years of information. Net increase, decrease, and net assets resulting from operations is what you want to see. And you want the total dividends and distributions to stockholders be less than the net increase from the operations. And you can look at this on a multiple year chart. 2019, they were good. 2020, they were not. 2021, it was close. 2022, bad year. 2023, looking good. 2024 so far looks good. Those are my thoughts on what you should and should not be looking at when you look at these funds. Just go out and get their semi-annual report or annual report. You can quickly go in there and you can quickly look at that compared to price and say, ooh, that report came out and people sold, or that report came out and people bought. So keep that in mind. Look at these reports on top of the rights offerings, because 2022, they had a rights offering. And I'm going to go ahead and say this now. I went and looked at the Stanford chemist, and he did the math for me. I did not have to look. He did the math. His mathematics told us it was better to sell at the rights offering than to hold and buy more shares. That's only the last two. I can't speak about any of the other ones prior to. And one a few years ago, it was actually almost a tie. It was only a slight increase to selling and then rebuying in. That is up to you. If history repeats, the rights offering comes up, it's probably better to sell and then buy back in later than to hold through the rights offering. And please make sure that you're dripping at NAV. So let's talk about Brad's testing. Just going to throw this out. I went in and I took the discount and discounted the share price by the average 5 years. So some months might be higher, some months might be lower, but you get the general gist that I am taking a discount to that share price so you can see exactly what happens. CLM 2013, August, I look at that going, there's my $50,000 invested. There's the $333 a month, which is my 8% of my $50,000. And you can see that it did fairly well. Not well enough for me to write home and say, I just want to jump into this fund. I thought this was a little bit of a disadvantage, so I reran the numbers starting at November 1st, just to see how these numbers looked. And you can see that it did fairly well. It's up. The NAV is up. What you have left over after taking your 8% is up. Your totals are up. Not looking too bad. As CLM had a lot of data, I went back to January of 2001 to test this. And when I ran the test, you can see you are up. If you held on, took their distributions, dripped it at NAV, invested $50,000, took 8%, you are physically up. And that includes the 2022 where they were not profitable and were paying you more than what they were making. You are still up. That's impressive. That's impressive to Brad. Still not convinced that Brad wants to get into these, but I can fully understand people wanting to get into them because a fund that can continue to produce good returns and give you that 8% is very good to be able to sleep at night. You just got to know at the right offering, which in 2022, you would have had to know that the right offering, when it was at, and you would have had to sell and rebuy. Probably not the best for a taxable account. Not financial advice, but seek your financial advisor. And the last one I did was CRF. I like CRF actually slightly better than CLM. That's just me. That's just my thoughts. That is only me. And I would have sold at the rights offering. My personal opinion, to start, I run through the data. Now, these spreadsheets will be available to the members later on this weekend when I upload them, and they can now see that there's a new button saying discount, so they can discount it to whatever percentage they choose to do. And this will help me run other closed-end funds that actually have some type of discounting. Let it be 5% or 20%. This case, I took the 5-year average and I did it that way. Is it 100% perfect? No, it's not. Is it better than just taking it at straight price? Yes, it is. Hopefully you found this educational and entertaining at the same time. Maybe a little humor as it goes, but I'm interested. I'm going to say not now, but still well on my radar. And if you actually are in these, I am going to tell you a firm hold, without a doubt. Firm hold. Not going to tell you to sell at the rights offering, wink, wink, but that's probably the correct play. Well, until next time, God bless.